Our next speaker, and we're into it, woohoo! Our next speaker is a leading authority in the world of aquaculture, internationally recognized as a force for good in the world of prawn and fish farming, and from henceforward, you don't know this, but known as Dr. Prawn. I'm joking, so sorry, respectfully. Dr. Farshad Shishehchian. Round of applause there, folks. Thank you. Mike? Maybe this one.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you very much for inviting me here. I mean, I have given a lot of talk in my life, but I think it's the second time that I'm talking to people that love cooking and food, because I love cooking and food myself. So the first time was in Japan to the Sushi Association of the Japan, and this is in my home country in Singapore. Thanks a lot again for inviting. Okay, what I'm going to do today, I will be explaining a little bit about the shrimp industry, because shrimp is one of the common ingredient that used in all over the world. So we have, the shrimp considered as a luxury, say like a food in many countries. For some people, it's a day-to-day eating and routine food. But what we have a farm in Singapore. Okay, so I come from Blue Aqua International. So we started the company in 2009. I'm a farmer. I mean, I did my PhD in shrimp, and we have, many activity in different countries. But Singapore is a very unique. So I was just talking to our friend that day, Ivan, that, we like to present Singapore because what we are doing in Singapore is very unique. We are one of the maybe first ASC certified RAS shrimp farm in the world. So that's what we have. Even people coming from Europe, from Sudan, they want to see what we are doing and they like our product. And aquaculture industry is one of the very recently been under the radar of a lot of investors. I mean, I have two very famous investors here that both of them have been investing in aquaculture. If you go 10 years ago, I remember when you talk to the banker that I'm a shrimp farmer, they kick you out. They say, no, this is a very risky business, okay? Okay, the history of the farming, it goes back to far, like maybe 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago. All days human, they know that they can just take a small part of the sea and they just let the animal grow there and for easy catching. This is how the industry started. And then we have, improved version, so people, they try to have like some baby fish, baby shrimp, they catch them, put them in one place, and then we move to the operation like, next slide please, like this. This is the largest shrimp farm in the world. It is a 30,000 hectare. 1 hectare is a 10,000 square meter. So this is a 30,000 hectare farm in Indonesia, Lampung. So this is the largest shrimp farm, and unfortunately, it's not doing well. It get bankrupt a few times. So we learned something from this. Next slide, please. That, traditional shrimp farming and the modern shrimp farming, what is the difference? Today, still, we are getting almost 90% of our shrimp requirement. See, we consume, as a human being, around 6.5 million ton shrimp per year. And maybe 50% come from, sea catch, and then around 50% come from aquaculture. So this going higher and higher for the aquaculture. But most of the, sorry, it's texty, because I was telling you one, I usually don't put any text in my presentation. I'll just put a picture, but because you will have this, so you can use for a reference for yourself. So that's what I put some extra text there. But when we talk about traditional shrimp farming, it's all about open system, like you have 10 hectare. We have a farm like that. I have a farm in Indonesia. We have, some other farm in different countries like Oman or Brunei we are setting up, which is the semi-closed, RAS. But generally, we have a term, we call it urban farming. Urban farming means the farming that happen close to the consumer. So it means I produce whatever I want, and I sell to the people that they need it in a very close distance. So like what we have in Singapore. So this is the urban farm. Like my shrimp farm in Singapore is an urban farm because number one, we don't do cycle. So we don't have a cycle actually. So we have a usually, like day-to-day harvest. Because I cannot just wait for 3 months. Shrimp harvest about 3 to 4 months. I cannot go and every 4 months harvest and send to the market, 10,000 kilo shrimp. Nobody gonna buy. So one of the things that urban farming has, these are some of the, characteristic. So you will have, local food production. Especially we noticed that during the COVID. So the COVID, like when we closed the border around every country, the first biggest challenge for every country was food. Beside the medicine and healthcare, food was the major concern. I remember in Singapore, we had a lot of discussion to how to really, bring a sufficient food if there is a closed door for, another 6 months, okay? So that's one of the things. And then you will have, definitely, these two are related. You will have less dependent on the long distance food. So you don't need to really think too far. And then you can control the farm because of if there is any climate change, okay? So there would be a better control and more resilience, okay? And then definitely you can have a diversification and also community empowerment. Means, like in Singapore, I have everyday people come and say, oh, can I come to your farm and be an intern? Can I see what you are doing? So we can work with a local community, okay? Next one. And then, okay, there is a big difference between the traditional farming and what we call it as a urban farming is that number one definitely is the, the system. The traditional farming, you require a huge land. Like imagine Singapore, we don't have such a things. You require a lot of, manpower, but in the urban farming, we can do all these things in the smaller area. So what happened in the traditional farming, our we call it biomass output is much more less than the urban farming, or we call it super intensive or high density farming. Because you can, like in my farm, we have one of the best record in the world. You can harvest from 1 square meter 10 kilo shrimp. Traditional farming maybe 500 grams. So that is how you can really understand about the stocking density and energy consumption. Traditional farm, they usually need more energy because it's much more larger operation. So we can manage. And in a farming that we are doing, we can use a lot of other, sustainable energy. Like, I don't know really, I call solar is a sustainable or not. There's a lot of discussion on that, but different source of the energy. Next slide. Okay, so there is a definitely economic viability. So it's very, very important to understand that when you do urban farming, you cannot get the shrimp as the same price as what you do in the traditional farm. That's definitely not going to happen. Okay, that's why the product that come from urban farm, usually they are more costly than the, the traditional farm. But scalability, you cannot grow you cannot say that I can have a urban farm like 100 hectare. No, I think you can take the best size for this kind of operation. I use hectare because that's a common, unit we use, like 1 hectare, 2 hectare maximum. Of course, the land use is much, much more less. So you are using much less resources. You see, like today, because of the global warming, because of many things, and also there are competition between food production that the land, used for the food production and many other industry. For example, tourism. One of the best examples I have seen in Turkey. If you go to Turkey, you see that there is a farm that used to be cage farming. And because of the tourists, they push them back because they make more money. So sometimes there is a competition between these two. And of course, market demand, is one of the things that it's very important. But when I come and sell my shrimp in Singapore, I am usually selling to the people that they have a higher standard. I'm not selling to the, to the wet market, to Pasar Malam. Nobody gonna buy our shrimp there. So that's what we need to have certification. That's why we have, I think we are the first certified farm for ASC in the world for indoor farming. So this certification will help to differentiate what we are doing, and one traditional or people doing similar to us in a different part of the world. Next one. So when we have a urban farm, when we talk about urban farm, there are a lot of technology involved. But when you talk about technology, it doesn't mean that, like you have more monitor, more screen and all those things. Because we had sometimes, a lot of visitors come and say, hey, I don't see you don't have so many screen here. I said, what, we are not running a hospital, it's a farm. So I don't need to have so many screens. We have technology, but the technology does not appear on the, computer screen or, the TV screen. So the technology is much more higher than the standard traditional farm. One of them is that we can do a very good disease management because it's a very closed system. So we have, like again, in my farm, I have one of the best lab that we can check for the viral bacteria, parasite. So we can do very often checking. There is a smaller biosecurity, much more tighter. We can work on the genetic improvement. Genetic improvement is one of the things that is work very well to improve the size, improve the resistance to the disease, improve the feed efficiency. We are setting up our trout farm in Singapore. Many people say, why you choose the trout? We are going to produce 3,000 ton trout from, next year 1,000 ton. By 2026, we have 3,000 ton trout. Because trout is the fish that all this technology, for example, fall in the right category with that. We have genetic, we have system, we have all the technology. But you cannot do this one to sea bass. You cannot do it to the grouper. So there are species that we can work on those species and improve them, make them work for. That's why there is a big gap between food security and sometimes many things that different country and the government they do. Because, I was a consultant to many government. So like in Singapore, if you say food security, okay, tomorrow I produce only tilapia. Nobody want to eat. So, but that is the best fish for food security. So it's a different, perception. Next. So, and feed production and management. Okay, every time you talk about food production, food for human, feed for animal. Every time we talk about food production, that's a very important factor of the feed production. Because you cannot have food without feed. Because you're going to grow, cow, sheep, chicken, fish, shrimp, crab, whatever you name it. They need to eat. So you need to use a different type of protein to feed them. Well, basically, when we do the, when we do animal farming, we convert one type of protein to another type of protein. That's one of the key things. So the best is that you convert, because we have like animal that they are more like herbivores. Herbivores means they eat only grass, like a cow, sheep, what else, like chicken, okay? So these are converting the plant protein that you and me cannot digest. But then sometimes we have species that we convert one type of the protein, animal protein, to another type of animal protein. For example, grouper required to eat protein that is a complex protein, okay? Like they had a lot of different amino acid and all those things. Okay, now, in a feed management part and feed production, when we do, urban farming, we are able to control. Like, for example, in the trout farming, we have one of the best FCR. FCR means feed conversion ratio. So it means how much feed you give to this animal and how much meat you get. But one of the worst FCR, I think, in the planet is belong to the cow, for example, or for some other fish, okay? We have even FCR. I asked this one from many PhDs sitting, some of the talk. Can we feed animal 950 grams and get 1 kilo feed, 1 kilo meat? Possible or not? No, right? But it's very possible. Because if you dry the fish or chicken or cow, they have almost 75, especially in the fish, you have 70% of water. So that's what we call it water retention. So you don't need to really feed 1 kilo solid diet to get 1 kilo solid meat. You understand? 1 kilo meat. Because if you dry the fish, you get only 300 grams. And the remaining is the water. So when the animal, you feed them, they just take the protein and they take the water and they build the muscle. That's why in this technology, we can lower the FCR. Theoretically, we can have an FCR of 300 gram for 1 kilo, theoretically, but it's not possible, okay? So that's how we can lower the resources. Next one. You haven't raised your hand yet, right? Okay, very good. So then we have like water quality, water management, water exchange, water availability. These are the key things that when you do farming, everything is about the water. We don't live in the water, we have no idea how the animal feel inside the water. I don't know, I'm a diver, but when I go underwater, I have thousands of equipment with me. You take them out from me, 5 minutes, I die already. So you don't know anything about underwater, what are the things. That's why the water quality management, these are very, very important in the aquaculture. So in an indoor farming or in the RAS system or is a closed door urban farming, we can manage this in a much more easier way. Water exchange is extremely small. Like in my farm in Singapore, we don't have even water. We buy by truck. So then you maintain the water quality for very long. That's why it's availability. Still, these are seawater. Sometimes you have fresh water. And fresh water is one of the, major concern that today we have. Okay? So in urban farming, managing water in, much more convenient and easier than the traditional farm. Next slide. Okay, some of the things for a lot of, like those people very concerned about environment. Definitely, urban farming has much more better carbon footprint because you can measure it. You have a better effluent and waste management. Environmental impact is much more less. That's what like we can get like ASC certified because all this, and the biodiversity conservation. But in the reality, I like to say something. Sometimes, because you come from a different industry, you deal with the final product of the farmer. And I can manipulate you very easy. You make sure about that. So it's just very careful that what people selling to you, is that really what they say, what they claim? Because some words are abused in our industry a lot. A word of sustainability, green, low carbon print, and all those things. So you have to be very careful that you don't just pay 3 times more for something that is the same as the next one, just because of some, nice word. So there must be a definition behind all of this. It's like sustainability is something that I go and buy some chair also, the guy was telling me, these chairs are very sustainable. I said, can you just define that? How does it sustainable? What does it mean by that? Oh no, we know, my manufacturer say they are very sustainable. So you see, like it's some of those sexy words that everybody like to use it, and we feel good with hearing that. So you have to really define these things in your dictionary, you understand. There are some misleading in our industry. I don't know, like some of the things we fight a lot, try to change and make the people understand. Like, I don't know, recently there were some movies and some documentary come and they say, oh, anybody catching fish is very bad person, or somebody growing salmon or something else somewhere else. Okay, how to eat? Always telling the problem is very easy, but you have no solution. But have to be very careful, So when we talk about footprint and everything, you really have to look for some definition for that. That's what we try to create. We have associations, we have a society that we work with that a lot. I was sitting as a president of the World Aquaculture Society for 6 years, and one of my job was to define these things, because it's very easy for misleading. Okay, next one. So these are some of the unique, I'm not going to go through, that's what I make it very wordy so you can go and read later. So there is a difference between, extensive and traditional farming compared to the urban farming. What are the things that you can see from technical point of view? Next. Okay. So just to show you, we have a farm in Singapore that we produce 3 species of shrimp. You very seldom see in this planet that people work more than 1 species. So we have 3. We have white shrimp, Venami, we have tiger shrimp, and we have Japanicus koruma shrimp. And all this done through the RAS system. I have a patented system which has been patented. It's the only patented system for shrimp farming in the world. We are patented in more than 8 countries. And it's worked very well. This is just like recipe. I mean, you guys are chef. Any one of you write book and I take your book, can I be like you? I don't think so. So there's a lot of, detail inside that. Next one. So we have also like hatchery. So we manage everything from A to Z. We produce our feed, we produce our baby shrimp, and we grow them, and we send them to the market, okay? Next. We have a lot of training. We have a center, we call it Dr. Shrimp. So under this, we have our academy. So we do a lot of training for the people. They come from different parts of the world. We work on a different species. Next. And these are the current species that we have. Actually, this one, it's very, very difficult. And again, I think we are one of the few companies. I think we are the only one doing the RAS. And we have been working on this for many years. Next one. Okay. So we have a small footprint. We have a very small land. I have in total in Singapore 3 hectare land, means 30,000 square meter. And we produce all these things through that, including our trout. Next. This is what we do day to day. Sometimes when you look at the quality of the shrimp, because just to give you some tips, the quality of the shrimp, I mean, to me, as a producer is, of course, the texture, the shell, and the flavor, okay? And color, of course, appearance. So everybody has a different, way of judging, but we know that because we use a lot of natural things, we harvest them very, very fresh and send to our consumer, usually has a very good quality. And you remember, when you buy the shrimp that is a tau, like they frozen the shrimp and you defrost it, usually the cell will break. That's why you you buy fresh shrimp and you buy frozen shrimp, even though it may maintain the certain quality, but at the end of the day, definitely some cells will break because this, freezing and defrost will break the cell. That's what the cytoplasm inside the cell will come up and usually become like a slimy, okay? Next one. So, I mean, this is some of the, like my thought. I always say that shrimp farming is a very, very interesting business. We have a lot of people come and ask us, okay, can I be a farmer? I say, no. Do you have any background? No. What do you have? I just have one land and a little bit of money. I definitely cannot. Because it's just like I come and say, can I be a dentist or can I be a heart surgeon? No. Everything needs expertise, and that is the problem in our industry. That's why sometimes people go to something because it looks very, very profitable, but it is not what it looks like. So the technical know-how is always a very key factor in our industry. Next one. I think that should be the last one, right? Yes. Okay. Thank you. No, if you have any questions,
We have,
I'll be happy. Thank you.
We have already some questions that have been asked, but the first question I'd like to ask is, I've noticed after reading a lot of your materials online and getting to know your actual wonderful farm, Matt Orlando, who will be speaking soon, and I, together with our team, did a few visits. Yeah, el microfono. Thank you. There you go. I've noticed that routinely you talk about this being a merge of both science and art, but we didn't get a chance to get on that topic during the presentation. But I'd love to hear more about your thoughts regarding this. Why is shrimp farming also an art?
Thank you. Yes, I mean, we are artists. Because, as I said, number one, shrimp farming and generally aquaculture, except, as I say, a few species that has been developed very well. Rather than that, the rest is more about the experience and the know-how. So it doesn't mean that you got a PhD in shrimp farming from whatever university, then you come and become a shrimp farmer. It's not like that. Because there are a lot of things you will learn through the experience. You know, like it's really, really, I never forgot, I was in China, so I visiting some farm with one of my staff. So when I was touching the water and taste, I said, oh, this one, the salinity is about 15, 16, 17. And he was checking, yeah, it's true. And then we try few, and then my guy, my technician was trying to test and say, how do you know? I say, I do this for 35 years, so of course I learn. So it's all about experience. Experience means you will learn there are, because, I mean, we are working with A-Star, it was very funny. We are trying to develop a AI for aquaculture. And I mean, we try to do the machine learning, and it's going to take very long time. They were telling me, can we do it like in 1 year, 2 years? I said, no, impossible. Because we have to do all the, you know, back and forth, all the information and all the possible scenario to machine to learn. And that is what an experienced shrimp farmer or fish farmer, you know, that's what we call it art. Because many of those know-how and knowledge, it is not written in the book. You cannot find it.
I also noticed that you were quite specific about mentioning the importance of studying tradition and being hands-on, not just book learn. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't want to name anything, but I mean, you just go and do Google I'm sure all of you have access to the Google and computer. You find how many farms so far has been failed, how many project has been failed, even though they had huge, huge funding and money and resources. I mean, like, there are many that they have spent. I mean, I can say one of them, they had a $300 million fundraising, and that $300 million is gone. And it just simply go back that sometimes people running this, as I say, this is a very hot topic. So we have a lot of, you know, people that they have money and they want to park their money somewhere that to make very good profit. And we know shrimp farming has a good profit if you do it right, or aquaculture has good profit. But then who run that? Very important. It's not just, I give you a Ferrari and you become Michael Schumacher. I don't think so. So you need to know how to drive, okay?
A question that the audience has put up, what's the relationship between the type of feed and the flavor and texture aspects of the product?
It's a very good question. I would say very difficult to say, because when you say type of feed, I don't understand. You are referring to what? Because feed is a feed. When we manufacture a feed, the difference is that feed contains protein, lipid, and of course carbohydrate. That's just three very simple components. So we usually look at where the protein come from. Okay, today protein can come from soybean, from plant protein, and we call it animal protein. Animal protein can come from marine protein or land animal protein. And then you have lipid. It can be vegetable or it can be, for example, tuna oil. So these things is all make a lot of differences. But I don't know really who can really differentiate the taste. You must have a very good butt for the, tasting the shrimp. But I can say you can see from appearance of the shrimp, the shell, the color of the shell, and also the fullness of the meat. That shows that this animal has been fed very well. But then again, there won't be a, really so easily somebody can say, oh, this shrimp tastes very bad or very good. So it's because sometimes when you cook it also, you have a lot of flavor you add, so it's very difficult. But definitely there is a difference. But when you say type of the feed, it's very difficult to categorize the type.
A couple of really good questions also coming up. One, I think every chef here is very curious about the answer you have for that one. But has there been a study on producing carabinero shrimps, the scarlet prawns of deep water sea prawns in Arben Farm?
Very good question. No. Because, I really was trying to do one. We had a few species, we wanted to work with them. But you have to understand, these animals, they have different requirements. Like even the kurma shrimp we are doing is very complicated. I think we are one of the few people that can manage to do up to a certain degree. Because these animals, they have temperature requirement, they have a pressure requirement. Because when you say animal living in a deep water means they naturally can tolerate very, very high water pressure. So when you bring them up, definitely they die. You know, you cannot make them, like even lobster, you talk about lobster, I work on lobster for so many years. I think so far there is no successful case of breeding of the lobster. We have only one in the University of Tasmania, but I don't know how good it's in terms of the, you know, I would say industrialization of that process. But it's not, no, sorry, it's very difficult.
Time for one more question, and I am liking this one too. Currently, we've been having a lot of conversations in the food industry about insects as a source of protein for the future. Could one extrapolate here that potentially shrimps or prawns are potential protein sources of the future?
You know, I was in a panel of discussion like a few weeks back about this lab-made, I don't know, protein. I know you have seen, I'm sure. I'm one of the 100% against that. Sorry if anybody here pro, I don't know, it's okay. It's okay, it's okay. But my question was, you see, my question was very simple. Do you want me to tell you that that is not possible? No, there's no such a thing. It's definitely one day going to happen. I agree. Okay, that's the first point. So nobody disagree. But do we have a correct approach today? I would say no. Because there is one, you know, that day in my panel was all the god of this business sitting there. So I asked them one simple question. Can you tell me what is the nutritional analysis of your lab-grown chicken or shrimp or meat? Yeah, we have some protein, we have some, but what is that? What amino acid you have? What fat you have? Because that's the difference between structure, texture, and the flavor. That's one thing. The second thing, I remember many years ago, my friend, they had this monster on salmon. They used genetic, so they used the gene from the catfish put inside the salmon, and they grow this big giant salmon, Aquaculture. Took them 15 years to get the license of the FDA, because FDA was telling me, I don't know what is this. But to me, I think very easy, I know it's a fish. But the one that coming from Petri dish, I really don't know what is that. Because we claim it has protein. There is no study that this protein is really some, because, so scientifically can argue a lot. But of course, this is the trend of all the young generation. They enjoy this kind of, you know, conversation, and they like it. So cannot be really against it, but it's too early to talk about it. You know, like, is a science? I am very sure. I may not be around, but definitely one day this thing's gonna be the first source for the human being, especially when we started to travel to different planets, different galaxies. Of course, you cannot carry cow or chicken or shrimp with you. You need to eat something. But it is not today. Today, I think still, yes, shrimp. I mean, just to tell you guys, last month we had a meeting in Holland, in Utrecht. So it was, they call it Global Shrimp Forum. And I had a report from the Robobank, and they say that the shrimp farming, it's growing like anything. So we are looking at the business that is going to be, I cannot remember the number, but it's definitely more than 4 or 5 times more than this with the current pace that we have. So you're going to have a lot of shrimp to cook, definitely.
Thank you very much, Dr. Farshad, for this wonderful talk, and also for thickening the plots there. Thank you very much, sir.